Okay, welcome back to Twofold. Now, we finished Millie's route on stream last time, and what we're going to do next is catch up with our other two friends, but I'm going to jump around through this here. I love this title card, by the way. It just tells me, poor Olive here, no thoughts, head Millie. Love that. Pen to paper. But alas. Yeah, this is the scene where we decide on our friend split, I believe. And this is very handily laid out the specific scenes devoted to your friend choice here. Birds of a feather. So obviously this scene name differs a little bit, depending on who your choice of friend was here. So we have 4 friend scenes to get through for each character. The resolution coming in Act 3, obviously, but end of semester here, and catching up in the midst of the writing club back in Act 1. So, first and foremost, we'll go into revisit this scene where Olive brings muffins, and work our way through our other 2 characters here in order. I'll just cut between the friend scenes in question here. So, which will hopefully make for better viewing on YouTube. So if you're watching this playlist on YouTube, you're getting a nice little bonus here. The next bit in this playlist will probably be Twitch VOD again, starting Caprice's route. So, let us begin. Alright, here we are now. Let's reach out to Darren. Been a while, be good to catch up. I should probably take the opportunity to talk with Darren. He keeps to himself so much that I don't often get the chance, and I'd like to think there's some camaraderie in being the 2 newest club members. He nibbles at the corner of a muffin as I walk over, taking exceptional care not to drop so much as a crumb. It's an impressive effort.
Hey, been a while since we caught up. How's it going?
Fine, I guess. I'm doing well in my classes, at least.
Well, that's good.
I wish I could say the same.
Working on it. It's already feeling like a struggle to keep this conversation going, and we're only 3 sentences deep.
So, what are you hoping to get out of college anyway? You might be new, but it sounds like you have some idea.
It's not really exciting. You're gonna be disappointed.
Nothing wrong with boring.
Historian. I wanted to study history.
Nothing wrong with that at all. He's right, that's about as standard as they come. Maybe that explains why he can write so quickly. The history courses I've taken were all about essays, and anyone who wanted to get anywhere would need to be used to writing them.
Suppose a writing club's a good fit for someone who's going to be drowning in essays by default.
I guess so. It helps. I like writing fiction too, though. They're different skill sets.
Alright, is conveying information and telling a story are 2 separate but interesting, separate but unique skill sets.
Yeah? How's the club been for you lately, then? Millie seems all over that kind of stuff.
He opens his mouth to answer, only to second-guess himself. He folds the little paper cup that previously housed his muffin and excuses himself from the conversation to grab another. I idly wonder why someone so studious didn't show up to the book signing. Either's not exactly a mystery, but I really thought he'd at least come along out of duty if nothing else. Either way, I guess that's all I'm going to get out of him today. I'll check in with the other 2 a bit later.
There's quite a lot of food here. Why'd you make so many different flavors?
And let's move along, then. Now, here we are in Act 1. Every so often I find myself covering a shift for someone who's called out sick. I don't mind, usually. These things happen, and the work's not so bad once you get into a rhythm for the day. Today is different, however. Not because it's unusually busy, but the exact opposite. With a full staff on hand, which is to say, Mom is also here. With the expected Saturday lunchtime rush, a feeling of impatience permeates the entire place. Bored out of my mind from hours of cleaning an immaculate and quite empty diner just to fill time, I prop the mop up against a wall and pull out my phone for a quick break. The bell above the door breaks me from my boredom in a flash. I fumble my phone into my pocket and skip over to the door. As I walk up to the entrance, I slow as I notice a familiar face. Darren! My mind crashes for a moment as the two worlds I live in once again intersect. The confusion shared by Darren, words struck in his throat as he works through the same situation. This is the second time a familiar face has casually walked through that door. One more instance like this and I'm going to stop thinking it's just a coincidence.
Oh, sorry, I blanked for a second. Come in. Sit wherever you'd like.
That's fine. I was a bit thrown off too. I had no idea you worked here.
Yeah, funny
A
about
friend
that.
from school?
Hello. I turn beside me to see Mom idling up, her ears apparently having picked up the conversation.
Yeah.
Darren gives an awkward chuckle, nerves getting the better of him.
You two can have lunch together. It's about your break time anyway.
Look at Mom.
Mom.
Mom, please.
We're not exactly busy. It'll be fine.
Mom, sheesh. Even if she weren't being insistent, it'd look bad to Darren if I protested staying with him too much. I reluctantly give a shrug and motion for him to follow. She skips off as we take a seat to give us some space, but I can already imagine the quizzing I'm going to be getting after he's gone.
Here for lunch? It's only about 11, isn't it?
Hey, some of us eat lunch early.
I usually eat around now if I can. Lets me get in and out before the crowds start forming.
Smart fella. Tailoring your schedule exclusively around how to best avoid people feels excessive, but it's hard for me not to not sympathize, especially with how hectic life has been lately. Take a look at the menu as he does, with as much earnestness as I can muster. I've long since memorized it, having cooked every item many times, but there's little else to do as he scans the laminated sheet before him. He must be indecisive, moments ticking by as he reads and reads. I expected some small talk, but the diner's as quiet as it was before he arrived. As it becomes obvious he's stalling for time, I speak up.
Hey, is everything okay? You seem a bit quiet.
He looks away from me as he puts the menu down. He's distressingly easy to read.
To be honest, I'm a bit surprised. Not just from bumping into you, I mean. Well, I guess it's sort of the same.
He's quick to catch himself rambling and resets himself with a small breath.
I'm just shocked to see how well off you've been handling everything in your life. It feels like you slipped into the club pretty quick, not to mention the job you've got here. You and I are like night and day.
It feels fairly clear that whatever, the reason Darren did not show up to the book signing is a more social anxiety thing, not a commitment to the club and the bid thing. His face sags, regardless of how wildly off the mark it feels to me.
If you actually believe any of that, then all I'm really good at is faking it. Well, you joined the club too, didn't you?
If you hadn't checked it out with me, I probably wouldn't have gone either. Honestly, if you didn't stick around, I would have bailed by now, too.
There's nothing wrong with going at a pace you're comfortable with. If you don't need to, you shouldn't have to force yourself into doing things you don't want to.
I do want to, is the thing. I wouldn't have brought it up with you if I didn't. It's just... People say the first step is the hardest, but the second step is what establishes the momentum.
Yeah, you got a point there, dude. It's, the first step's easy, but it's... First step towards change is easy, but repeating those steps enough to the point where it becomes a consistent habit, that's where it gets difficult. It's easy to drop off partway through and let it slide, then you just slide back into the status quo, and it's, yeah.
Dang, you really do belong in the writing crowd, huh?
He responds with a nervous chuckle. I hope my attempts at lightening the mood didn't put him on the defensive instead.
Things are hard, but you make them look easy. Even if you say it's all an act, you pull it off so believably I can't help but be a little envious.
Admittedly, it's a skill you're more or less forced to pick up in situations like mine. With Mom working as hard as she does for my sake, I've gotten pretty good at hiding away my anxieties to avoid burdening her. Or so I'd like to think, but she seems to see right through me anyway.
Even now, I was worrying about dealing with the waiters and rehearsing how to order over and over in my head. Then there was the writing club meetup with me getting cold feet at the last second.
Yep. He's got the social anxiety on hard mode here. That's one mystery solved, at least. Given everything he's said so far today, I'm more than willing to believe it was just a matter of nerves. Returns to his menu, scanning over the options. I'm sure he's already looked over it a dozen times already. I was worried when he flaked from the club outing, but thankfully it seems like that was misplaced. Still, now that the actual problem has presented itself, the way forward seems obvious enough.
I wouldn't worry about that stuff too much. I promise it's not any easier for me either. For what it's worth, I'll be attending all the club meetings till the end of the semester, if having a friend there helps at all.
The menu loosens in his grip lightly, revealing his face to me again as it sinks down.
It definitely will. Thanks, Olive.
Oh, that's a wholesome outcome. That really is. Back to scenes we recognize. We are, okay. Skipping ahead to Act 2 now. Okay, so we're continuing here. Start of Act 2. After the last club meeting where Millie and Olive and Darren have a last-minute cram session, we are picking things up with Darren's second scene. The semester is over. Remember, Tanya's scene was when we first planted the seeds of Tanya not really being into the writing aspect of the writing club. This was after the semester has ended, when everyone was going to turn their books back in. So now we're here. The scene is called Brainstorming. And let's continue. To say it's been hectic for it's an understatement. Millie, flashing me a small smile as she quietly organizes papers around at the front desk, looks entirely unfazed by the ups and downs of the past few months. I wonder if the same could be said for the man sitting one desk over from me. Outside of our one chance meeting at the diner, we haven't really spoken much outside of the occasional chit-chat, and he's missed as many meetings as he's attended. Still, his constant chipping away at some writing project combined with his friendly attitude arguably makes him the only one of us to really feel like he belongs here.
Hey, Darren.
Oh?
Huh? Oh, what's up?
I just, wanted to say thanks. I was worried for the club at the start there, considering, well, you know.
Yeah. Takes a moment to glance around the room, barren as it is.
Yeah, no problem. At the end of the day, it was mostly just an empty room to sit around in and jot ideas down, so it suits me just fine.
Fair enough.
I should be thanking you for the same thing. I wouldn't have lasted a week without a familiar face around.
The Fallout New Vegas saga continues. Take a look behind me, already knowing what to expect. Heather never showed up, and Tanya left a few minutes ago. Wish his observations weren't as painfully accurate as they are.
So, are you sticking around for next semester too?
Good question. Before even trying to come up with an answer, I swivel back around to face him, trying to right my frown as I do so.
I'm not really sure yet. I think so. Well, assuming I don't flunk out.
Right, yeah.
His eyes sink down, focus turned back to his notes.
I'll probably tough it out another semester too then. No harm in it, so long as things mostly stay the same.
I want to say I'm happy to hear that, but in truth I'd really like for the club to end on a higher note than this when it comes time for Millie and I to start transferring out. Still, Darren's resolve shouldn't go unappreciated.
That's a relief to hear. Looking forward to it.
That seems to be a mutually agreeable stopping point for the conversation, as Darren confirms it with a slight smile before returning to his work. The next few minutes are quiet, the only noises in the entire room being those of Millie's shuffling of papers and Darren's mad scribbling. I find myself checking my phone now and then to kill time, rechecking the grades report on the school site, hoping the fact that I had actually got through things at okay sinks in sooner rather than later.
Hey, you two. I'm just about finished up. Ready to go?
Millie pulls me out of my own headspace as I finish checking my grades for the umpteenth time.
Yeah, sure. Whenever you're ready.
I'll let you know then.
Look. She starts to turn back to the desk before reconsidering, then shifting back around after only a moment.
Darren!
Uh-oh, called out. Time to hide.
Huh? What?
Me? Oh shoot. Looking for a place to hide. He jumped a bit more that time. Poor guy.
I really enjoyed reading everything you ended up turning in this semester. Thanks for putting up with me.
Oh.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. The little exercises you threw at us helped push me out of my comfort zone a bit, if that means anything.
Millie's practically beaming at this point. Don't think he realizes just how much she's been dying to hear something like that.
I noticed. The things you sent in early on are a world apart from where you are now.
With Darren left paralyzed and how to respond, Millie's eyes wander a tad, eventually landing on the paper he's been scribbling on all afternoon. What's this? What's this? What's this?
What are you working on, if you don't mind me asking?
So caught for a crime, Darren's back straightens up and he pulls the paper closer to his chest.
Just some generic brainstorming. I was thinking I'd maybe start something larger scale over the break.
It's by Heart of the Woods fanfiction. Millie's eyes couldn't be wider.
Do you mind if I give it a skim? Only if it's okay with you.
It's a Heart of the Woods fanfiction where Tara and Morgan go hunting for the Oklahoma octopus. He seriously thinks about the question for a moment, keeping both hands firmly on the page. After a couple of seconds, he relents, pushing it forward without a word. They steal a glance before Millie retrieves it to start a review. Even at a distance, his handwriting is immaculate, with various sections highlighted in numerous colors. Wow.
Interesting.
Oh, I love it when she glows like that.
That page was filled to the brim. Don't tell me you're done already.
Not at all, but the initial outline has my attention.
In what way?
Nothing bad, I promise. I'm actually a sucker for alternative history stories. It's always fun to explore the what-ifs.
Well, honestly, what better for an aspiring fiction major? Fiction major? Aspiring history major to write than alternative history.
Right? It's so interesting to think about how much can change if even one small detail from our past is turned on its head and how far that can ripple.
Oh, you're gonna go far, dude. I'm desperately curious to hear what they're talking about, but I have a gnawing suspicion it'd fly right over my head. But from what little I picked up, sounds right up Darren's alley. Millie continues her review, occasionally humming a note or two as she progresses down the page. After the initial comment, Darren seems more chipper as well.
So?
I really think you have something here. I was impressed by how thoroughly you outlined everything. I feel like I had a full understanding of the entire thing just from a page of loose notes.
You're good, man. You're good.
You saw my chicken scratch at the start of the semester. I could honestly do to learn a thing or two from you.
Not at all.
If you don't mind, I'd love to take a look at what you get done over winter break when classes resume.
I can bring something in, sure.
Oh. Olive? A satisfactory answer, evidenced by Millie's smile. She must catch me in her periphery as she suddenly shifts over to my direction. What about you, Olive?
Oh, sorry for keeping you waiting. I just need to lock up a few cabinets and we'll be good to go.
It's not a big deal, really.
If you're okay with it, I don't mind locking the rest of the room up so you two can get going.
Darren's interjection shocks both of us equally, our heads turning to meet him in tandem.
But it's fine if you'd rather not. I know it'd probably be hard to trust me with the keys and all.
Not at all, if you really don't mind. Are you okay with dropping them off at my apartment before the end of the week? I can send you directions later.
Do not, under any circumstances, introduce him to Caprice. You will melt on the spot, and he will melt into a puddle and run off.
Oh, yeah, sure, no biggie.
He couldn't be less convincing.
Then I'll leave it to you. I owe you one. Ready, Olive?
Ready as I'll ever be. Thanks, Darren.
I dragged myself from my seat, shoving the chair underneath the desk after a quick stretch.
It's nothing. Happy holidays, you two.
Oh. It's honestly really nice to see. It's taking a more wholesome direction. Tanya had some growing to do.
Is there any way?
Tanya had some growing to do, and it was really nice to see her grow and get better. But it's just a wholesome story of a dude coming out of his shell a little bit. Let's see how he picks up in Act 3. Alright, here we are in Act 3 now. A scene called Desperate Times. Now, a day of classes comes and goes. I'm still trying to get back into the swing of things, though the winter break lingering on my mind, but college is slowly starting to feel normal again. Only that we're in the entirely good news. The sense of normalcy is returning, sure, but that's due in no small part to the writing club continuing to barely hang on by a thread. Not sure why I was expecting some sort of miracle in attendance to pick back up, but those hopes were quickly dashed regardless. After what she went through over the holidays, she really needed just one day where the club came together. I knew she wouldn't get it, but I don't know. Millie's still offering to drive me to and from campus, so I'm glad we get to spend that time together at the very least, but I know it isn't the same for... So just as I'm thinking about how I'm going to kill some time until she's out of her last class, the answer taps me on the shoulder.
Hey, you busy?
Darren! Wanted to ask how he found me, but with how much time I spend pacing back and forth through the halls, sorting through my thoughts, I guess it'd be inevitable if he'd been looking long enough.
Not really. What's up?
I just wanted to poke your brain about the club for a bit.
Oh, his timing couldn't be any better. Or worse, depending on where this is going.
Oh?
Yeah. So...
His natural shyness is one thing, but the hesitation feels different from the usual. Enough to put me on edge, at least.
It's not gonna last, huh?
I don't even know how to answer that. He's a smart dude. He can see the writing on the wall. The easy answer is no, but I can't bring myself to admit it. And yet. Fortunately, this is the part of the story where Millie comes to terms with it and decides to let it go. But we're not
What
quite
makes
there
you
yet.
say that?
Just, the lack of attendance. That's partially my fault. And also some of the others in general.
Heather, we'll get to you.
You can just say Heather.
Thank you, Olive.
Yeah.
Yeah. He scratched the back of his neck in some mix of resignation and hopelessness.
You want to help salvage it, right? Did you have any ideas?
That's not quite the direction I was expecting.
Why do you ask?
I don't know. I mean, you helped drag me in there, and I've enjoyed talking to Millie. I'm not sure if you see it the same way, but I, consider both of you friends.
Struggles to get the words out, but the sincerity of it all is enough to get a smile out of me. I wish Millie was around to hear it.
Well, I appreciate it. And I'm sure she would too.
With the offer open, I'd be a fool not to at least discuss it. I leaned myself against a wall, trying to put my thoughts in order.
I've been thinking about it a lot. You can probably imagine.
Yeah, I bet.
And I've got nothing to show for it.
Oh.
He clearly wants to keep it going a little bit. Sigh's immediate. I say I don't know what to do, but there is one small thread I haven't pulled at yet. I'm just afraid to see what happens after the initial tug.
I have someone we could ask, though.
Oh, sorry. Maybe. I was expected the door's unlocked. It's dead silent on the other side, too, so it's definitely not because of an ongoing lesson. I hesitate before committing to turning the handle the rest of the way. Be making things infinitely worse by trying this.
Olive?
It's fine. Sorry.
Determined to not spook Darren any more than I have to, I take a breath and turn the handle. Oh. Room's almost entirely empty, but it looks the beginnings of a club meeting are scattered around all around the desks. The only occupant is near the back, scrolling through her phone with a frustrated look on her face. Well, that's a good start. At the very least, she stops what she's doing and makes her way over to us, so the fear of just being ignored outright is gone.
Do I even want to ask?
Nothing bad, I promise. Millie doesn't even know we're here.
Oh, wait, I recognize you. From that meeting last semester.
I see my reputation precedes me.
Her dry delivery almost gets a laugh out of me. It's not the chipper Caprice I would recognize from our first art class together, but she's not the hostile one I was bracing for either.
Darren Baker.
Caprice Shifton. Nice to meet ya.
There's a little bit of light there, but nope, yeah, she's definitely not feeling so good. The two shake hands, and when Caprice returns to her natural standing position, she seems a bit more relaxed. Nothing else, Darren's helped break the ice perfectly.
So what's up?
Well, has Millie talked about the state of the club at all? Like, honestly?
I don't think she's talked whatsoever about any
I
of
know
it.
it's limping along. Why?
Well, I was barely doing that anymore.
Uh-huh.
It is on its deathbed.
So, I was wondering if you had any ideas on how to help. Since your club is managing fine, I mean.
Caprice closes her eyes and tilts her head to the side a bit, as if trying to shake a thought out.
We're fighting, you know. I'm the last person you should be asking about this stuff.
Which is why you should know how bad it is, seeing as how we're here.
An inhale. A few seconds. An exhale. Her head rights itself and her eyes open.
Back when the art club started, it was just Allison, Eileen, and I.
Right.
Ours isn't really officially recognized by the campus, so I'm not sure if it's any different, but I think your numbers are probably fine, even if it's just barely.
I've never seen her so serious before. No mincing words, no drastic shifts in volume, just her. Serious Caprice is a very stark change.
So why doesn't it feel that way, do you think?
At the end of the day, a club's just a group of people who share an interest and like being around each other. The first thing isn't even as important as the second. Millie has enough people to stay afloat, but they hate each other. It can't work like that.
And if we just made it so it was Millie, Olive, and I, it'd be a one-man show in a semester's time.
That's not an option. It's just a delayed death. Everything Caprice has said makes sense, but it really just makes things feel even more hopeless than before.
Olive,
Yeah?
don't repeat what I'm about to say. If you do, I'll know.
Yes, ma'am.
Giving me a quick scan, she must find something in my posture to earn her trust as she begins to speak.
Okay, I know how much the club means to her. I can't stand being in the same room as her right now, but I wouldn't ever try to take that away from her. If there's anything I could offer that help, I'd do it. Consider it a standing offer even. But as is right now, I'm sorry. If anything comes to mind, I'll let you know, promise.
That's much appreciated.
I know. Thanks. Your secret's safe with me.
Millie's lucky to have both of you.
Hey, same thing to you. Not a word.
Not a peep. Not a peep, Darren. Do not say a word or else Caprice will find you.
Yes. Okay.
There's the Caprice I know, her sudden shift in volume causing Darren to jump. Even when I know to expect it from her, she manages to shock me, too.
Good luck, you two. I mean it.
Gosh, she's still really good. We nod and exchange our goodbyes, Caprice leaving us with a soft smile as we close the door behind us. The club is doomed. Things will get worse before they get better, but hopefully at the end of all this, Millie will have Caprice. Yeah, that's the end goal here. The club can be let go of, but the important thing is fixing things between Millie and Caprice. Oh, Mr. Mole. You little... Now time for the Darren's final friend scene. Good day.
It's fine. Don't worry.
This is our after our final club meeting, saying farewell. Last day of the writing club is upon us. Tanya popped in for a moment to apologize to Millie, but she didn't stick around. This is the apology we had in greater detail when we did Tanya's friend events. And Darren didn't show. Oh, it's disappointing, but I think Millie and I understand he has his reasons. And so we sit on our desks, the last remnants of the club, staring at nothing in particular on the other side of the window. It's quiet, and quieter than the usual meeting. Millie said little since we arrived to pack things away, but her face says more than it could. Sorry I couldn't do more. Even if everything else falls down around you, I wanted you to have this than anything.
I tried, you know. At the end of the semester that it was passed off to me, almost every waking moment during the break was spent preparing.
I know.
Then, the day after classes resumed, I returned to a club a quarter of its size. After a week, it was an eighth. After a month, it was just Heather and I. Tanya only signed on after I started panicking.
Oh, wow. That's... no wonder this is stuck so hard in her mind like this.
Yeah.
It's just... fucking...
I did everything right. It never even occurred to me that it was just a giant hangout for a bunch of pre-existing friends. That the actual love of the craft wasn't a factor in the slightest.
These one-word responses are awful, I know it, so why is it so hard to say anything else? I drove to grab her hand. Her arms hang over a gap between two desks, her fingers grasping mine in an unbreakable grip. We sit like this for a while. For its minutes or hours, I'd struggle to say. The only break in silence is the occasional sniffle which she valiantly tries to hide, as futile an exercise as that may be. Eventually there are 3 gentle knocks on the door. I turn my head on instinct, but Millie's head doesn't move so much as an inch, eyes trained firmly outside.
It's open!
The confirmation received, the handle turns, and the old door slowly creaks open. Hey, Darren.
Thank goodness. I was worried to death I'd miss you.
It's finally enough to pull Millie's attention away from the window and back to the inside of the room.
No farewell party, I'm afraid. It's nice to see you, though.
Well, actually, I shouldn't get ahead of myself. Here.
Oh, did he finish the piece he was working on last semester? He makes his way inside, offering Millie a thick stack of papers, holes punched through the sides, bounded together by twine.
The entire first draft, as promised.
All right! Millie loosens her grip from my hand, using her newfound freedom to flip through the pages.
Darren, this has to be at least an extra 100 pages more than what you showed me last time.
Ah!
Sorry if it comes off as rushed. I had a sudden deadline I needed to hit.
Really appreciate it. If you don't mind, I'd like to give it the time it deserves and read it at a proper pace.
Oh, yeah, take your time.
She finishes her skim, closing the makeshift book in her hands as she looks back up to him.
Is there anywhere I can reach you to leave my feedback once I get through it?
Yeah, actually. There's another paper underneath the stack.
Oh? Millie tilts her head, looking puzzled as she slides the stray piece of paper up to the top. It doesn't take long for Millie to recognize it, eyes widening after only a couple moments.
Darren, what?
I'm not going to ask you to change your mind. I definitely think you've earned a break from all of this.
Oh?
At the same time, I was thinking, it sucks. You having to be the one to shutter the club after it had been going on for years.
Oh? Is he pulling something? My curiosity gets the better of me. I lean over to Millie to get a glimpse of the paper that's causing so much fuss. A transfer of leadership request. It looks official, too, with fine print and the school's logo. Whoa. What is it? What on earth is this guy thinking?
So, you want to close it yourself, or...?
Are you trying to bring it back?
I'd actually like to keep it going, if I can.
Wow.
Darren, that means starting from scratch. You'll have to advertise, sign up for the club fair, have to actually manage a group of people if it gets off the ground.
I know. Leave it there before I start second-guessing this, please.
I want to laugh, but instead I'm left speechless. This is so far outside of Darren's comfort zone, he may as well be in another galaxy entirely.
Can I ask why you came to this decision? Or even how?
Well, I was talking to a friend about this.
Right.
And they said that a club is nothing more than a group of people who share a common interest and like being around each other.
I wonder who this friend could be. I can only hope my smile isn't too obvious.
I'm not sure I'm the right one for this necessarily, but if the club is down to just me after you two move on, that sounds like as good a time as any to start again with that philosophy in mind. Starting over can be easier than trying to salvage what you have sometimes, I think.
That's a really good philosophy. A deep breath followed by a smile. A rarity for Millie these days.
Sounds like your friend knows her stuff.
Only time will tell, but no harm in trying to put her advice to practice, given the circumstances. Wait, there. There it is.
Why do I get the feeling that Millie saw right through him? That Millie has heard that line that Darren dropped on her before, and is just...
Of course.
Why do I get the feeling that she knows?
You're free to come back whenever, obviously. And it's your decision in the end. I filled everything else out already, but I need your signature.
That's still really cool of you. Millie looks down on the form again before giving a scan of the room. Her head swivels slowly, trying to commit every last detail of her club room to memory.
I'll need a pen.
It's my turn to chip in. I reach down and pull up my backpack from the floor, rummaging through it until I manage to pull out a pin for her. She takes it as soon as I offer it up, signing her name with a dramatic swoosh. She takes one more look at the document, freshly signed. Reaching at her own bag, she puts Darren's writing away and pulls out a keyring to replace it.
You'll need these too then.
Her voice finally begins to shake. Against all odds, the club lives to see another day. It'll just be him for now, but it's hard for me not to root for him. He takes the keys and document without a word. His faint smile grows ever so slightly as he goes over the sheet one more time, ensuring all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted.
That club's got a long history, or so I'm told. We've got some big shoes to fill.
I think you're capable of it, though.
I know. All I can do is try my best.
There's a really warm and passionate dude in there. It couldn't be in better hands. A lot to live up to. Yeah? We've befriended Darren, continuing his check. He's left completely unaware that as Billy pulls him into a hug, the tears starting in earnest.
Thank you. Good luck.
Wow. Wow. Attaboy, Darren. Attaboy. You can do it. There's actually a little bit of unique dialogue at this scene, too, near the very end of the game.
I'm still in shock about what happened, really.
You and me both. I knew Darren cared, but I didn't expect him to take things to that extreme.
Hey, we gave him the push. Lily fills with her braid, a gesture I've learned is something she does without thinking when she's stressed. She does have a few tells, as cunning as she is.
Worried?
About what?
You know, what he's taken on isn't an easy job. Especially with the state of the riding club right now.
Maybe that's for the best. He's practically starting fresh, so it won't have the baggage it's had for years. He can make the club into what he thinks is best. After all, a club is nothing more than a group of people who share a common interest and like being around each other.
Oh, he knows. Oh, she knows. Yeah, she knows. I feel like I have vague memories of Caprice dropping that line some point early on in the game. He shoots me a sly grin. All that making us promise to not talk, and then Caprice turns around and does it herself. Yeah.
Sorry if this is weird or forward to say,
But...
That is a very Caprice move.
but I'm really happy to see things working out for you again. You deserve it.
honest words hit home for her, pursing her lips tightly to steady herself as she silently
I think
nods.
she would have liked you.
Let's end off there. Let's rewind time. Go check out Heather's path. See what on earth comes from that. What we know about the club is that it was very much a group of friends just there to hang out, and Millie was trying to actually do writing stuff and get better at writing, and the friends just wanted to hang out. When that leadership changed, the friends left, and Heather stayed for some reason. Let's go investigate that, shall we? Alright, we've rewound time. It's time. Part of me doesn't want to bother, but I love that the options here. Tanya gets the leftovers, Heather's gone, Darren eats his muffin and leaves. We get to hang out with Darren, Tanya bails too, Heather leaves. Or perhaps we go looking for Heather here. Let's see. Heather continues to be an enigma. She plainly doesn't care for writing at all, and varies from ambivalence to outright hostility towards the club members. Why she's still a member at all, I don't understand. Given how antagonistic she is in the club, maybe meeting her on more neutral ground sometime in the future would be for the best. He notices me catching her eyes as she and Tanya stop talking.
Hey, Millie. Know where Heather might be?
She thinks to herself for a moment, but it's Tanya who speaks first.
She keeps her business to herself, but I've heard her slip about her media studies and journalism courses before.
Media studies and journalism.
That's something to go on, at least. Thanks.
Don't know why anyone would give someone like her the time of day, though.
We want to understand.
Well, it's just... I've been around for a few weeks now, but I think I can count the number of times I've seen her around on one hand.
So it's more morbid curiosity than anything.
Consider yourself lucky.
Tanya, please.
Can't help it. Millie's protest seems to do the trick in silencing Tanya's complaints, even if the look on her face makes it obvious that she has a lot more to say on the matter.
Either way, I was just curious. Thanks for the heads up.
Are we gonna go look? Was this
There's quite a lot of food here. Why'd you make so many different flavors?
Okay, fair enough. I guess later on we'll just be trying to seek her out. Possibly the same way we sought out Tanya in her first friend scene. Let us jump ahead then. Forget that this scene comes right after the first big cancellation when Heather bails. At any rate, here we are. Sing real. Not exactly how I expected to spend my free time, but at least the arts building is quiet enough to hear myself think. Darren is at least sort of reliable when it comes to attending club meetings and actually participating. Heather is more of an enigma. Why bother showing up when you so blatantly don't care for the place? Something has to be going on with her. Indistinct sounds can be heard from up ahead. The door to the nondescript room closed and the lights off. Suspecting I found my target, I woke up and gingerly opened the door. Oh! The sight inside shows I've hit the jackpot as I step inside. Heather's head silhouetted by the projector's flickering light. I stroll up behind her to see the screen better. Looks over her shoulder, barely acknowledging my presence before going back to watching the screen. Looks like the movies from the 80s and early 90s, going by the fashion and video quality. Not much more than a B-grade slasher or a horror movie, filmed on a cheap and unsteady camera.
Interesting taste.
If you're going to bother me anyway, sit down and watch.
At least she's not shooing me away. I settle into one of the uncomfortable chairs beside her and cast a glance beside me. She looks perfectly at home as she sits watching cross-legged, blowing bubbles with her chewing gum. Oh. Huh. What is she doing? Doesn't feel like an intended use of the media room's projector system, but I suppose it isn't hurting anything. Wow, she gets a CG too.
Not really the kind of thing I'd expect you'd be into.
Huh.
Shh.
She's very serious about this. This movie takes her attention. I follow her gaze.
You came just in time for the best part.
Oh? With the camera set ahead of her, a disheveled woman nervously steps through a wheat field in the heavy rain. weak flashlight clutched tightly with both quivering hands, barely piercing the night's darkness. A sharp and ominous sound effect, a menacing shadows. The shadowy figure rears up behind her, face freezing. The woman spins around and shrieks loudly, and then...
Oof.
Well, obviously fake, the gore is enough to make me cringe a little. Heather just keeps on chewing her gum, entirely unmoved.
You can tell someone was behind a movie like this. It isn't some committee of suits looking at statistics and focus groups. This is a director's vision, right there on the screen.
Something you're passionate about. That's movies, right down to the blood squibs.
What brings you around to this corner of the campus? You in the habit of poking your head into any unlocked room you come across?
Not at all. It's, well, more like...
You're doing such a stellar job pleading your case here, Apricot.
Apricot?
Olive.
She turns her attention back to the stream before I even get the word out. Guess I should have expected that.
What's your deal anyway?
What do you mean?
Don't play dumb. Why's a well-adjusted, sensible person like you in some dead-end club like Millie's?
You make it sound like the writing club's on life support.
Isn't it?
I give a half-hearted shrug. She's not wrong, but that's a far more blunt assessment than I expected.
I could ask you the same thing.
I have my reasons, just as I'm sure you have yours. Perhaps our wonderful club leader has won you over.
There are about a dozen different ways you could interpret that, though the smirk creeping over Heather's face seems to imply the most embarrassing one. That is quite a smirk.
She's nice, but I'm just there because I need the help to pass my writing classes.
No wonder she acts like your mom. You're the perfect little student for her to fuss over.
You really don't like Millie, do you?
Heather sits there for a while, chewing her gum. I shift a little in my hard seat. Just as I think she's tuned me out for a movie, she stops chewing and finally answers.
Who do you think was the first person in the writing club? Of those still around, anyway.
You. That's not a terribly hard question. Millie would have joined as soon as she could, and she and I were in our last year.
Millie, if I had to guess.
That's what you'd think, right? It was actually me.
Millie joined. See, the way I see it, based on what we know from all our other occurrences, the group was a bunch of friends. Millie joins. Whoever was president at the time passes on leadership to her. She actually tries to run it like a writing practice class. Heather's friend group doesn't like it and bails.
Aren't you a year behind her, though?
I took a gap year. Little did I know the club would implode the moment I left.
Ah,
It was a real club back then. I knew everyone there. Got on with them just fine. Not that I particularly liked writing, but the people there made it worth it.
And it evaporated by the time you came back?
Just a shriveled husk. Went from a couple dozen people to 3. Even that's being generous. Not all grease monkeys, only there to keep the head count above water.
there's a certain melancholic note to her last words, which is probably the closest to genuine open emotion I've seen from her. Not that I blame her, given how disheartening that would be to come back to. Whether the blame for that could be laid entirely at Millie's feet, I'm not so sure about. Regardless, it's clear Heather's made up her mind. Silence lingers as her gaze goes back to her movie, the killer now hunting down another hapless teenager. Can't see the appeal of this stuff myself, and this isn't helping.
You mentioned something about needing bodies for the club, back when Darren and I joined. That's the first I've heard about any rule like that.
There's nothing official from the college admin about when a club gets shut down. What is a rule is that every club has to have a supervisor and an allocated budget.
Is this why Caprice's art club isn't considered an official club?
And that's just what keeps a club going. And besides, the writing club doesn't even have a supervisor. I didn't see one in the art club either.
The art club's nothing but a group of freaks who somehow got a set of keys to hijack a room.
Well, how do you really feel?
As for the writing club, well, you ever see that old raisin of a man around campus? Eyebrows that could double as bird nests? Hard to miss if you know him.
He's one of my gen ed professors.
Opinions?
I usually like my teachers just fine, but he should have retired years ago. For some reason, he couldn't, and now he takes it out on everyone around him.
That's the worst type of professor there.
Got it in one. Never met a student who liked him. Not even a goody two-shoes like you.
Oof. That is very fair. I just need to admire that smirk of hers because that is very good.
Unfortunately for him, he got saddled with being the supervisor of the writing club. Now, what do you think happens when a club with a whole 3 people has a supervisor who doesn't want the job?
He doesn't fucking show.
They dump it, I guess? If the member count is that big of an issue, how is it still around in that case? Wait, why do you know so much about club politics anyway? I remember checking up on clubs before, and none of this is written on the school site or brochures.
Same answer to both. I caught wind that the crotchety old fossil was going to get a shutdown, so I persuaded him to leave it alone.
Well.
How'd you do that?
Zeroed out the budget, and said he could keep sitting on his ass while the club managed itself.
Huh. So Darren and I just helped make more of an informal case for leaving the club alone. As long as we keep quiet and manage our affairs, the professor's lack of attendance will slide under the radar. It also means that Millie's paying out of pocket for everything. Oh. From the reference books to every perfectly organized pen, notebook, and marker. Wow.
I feel like I should be asking why.
So the alternative, he didn't want the job as supervisor anymore. He was going to shut the club down, but Heather kept it going.
That really doesn't matter. You should be thanking me for keeping your lifeline afloat for this long instead.
Legitimately, she just shows up to be a real pain to Millie and Tanya. But she really is responsible for keeping it going. Even when she's right, she's insufferable. Correct? She is delightfully insufferable. That is very interesting. Alright, round 2 with Heather. After stressing about everything for so long, it feels unusual to only be concerned with figuring out how to kill time. The final club meeting of this semester was today, or it was supposed to be. Heather and Darren were no-shows, and even Tanya only bothered poking her head in for a few minutes. Fortunately, there were still things that needed doing, even if no one was around to do them. After helping her clean the room up, she sent me away while she finishes organizing some paperwork. Would have been more than fine staying with her, but if she wants to be alone, I won't argue with her. My solution is to aimlessly wander the halls. A college campus isn't the best place to find entertainment, and no better ideas come to mind. That is, of course, until my meandering about eventually leads me to the AV room. I wonder if she's even on campus anymore. Put my hand on the doorknob, not entirely positive I want to know the answer. Her not being there is actively better for everyone's mental health. At the same time, for whatever reason, Millie seems to consider her constant flaking to be a bad thing. That being enough to steal my nerves, I push down. There's no resistance, and the door opens. I feel my... Oh, Darren! Betrayal! I feel my heart sink. It's only the back of their heads, but I immediately spy not one, but 2 clubmates watching some out-of-season horror junk.
Not the right floor, not even the right building. You two forget where the writing club meets?
As expected, Darren jumps from his seat, staring at attention. Heather's arguably even more predictable, turning her head in annoyance before pausing the movie and taking to her feet as well.
Very observant.
Why are you still here if not for the meeting? The semester's over. Is it really just a matter of spite?
Correct again. You're just a natural-born intellect, aren't you?
Wow. Alright. I guess I should have expected as much. From her, anyway. My eyes turned to Darren. I really didn't expect this kind of thing from him, especially after this morning.
That's not what happened at all. I was going to go today, really.
And?
I got ambushed.
Huh? If it was anyone else, I'd brush it off, but that response feels oddly in character for him.
I was actually heading over when Heather intercepted me and dragged me here instead.
Was this really a more appealing invitation than the club?
No, but I'm just too anxious to say no.
No, I mean she literally dragged me by the arm.
I guess that's as good as confirmation as any. The only thing I can think to do is sigh.
I will never understand you.
And that's such a disappointment. I was really hoping I'd have a fellow agent in chaos before Millie dug her claws into you.
No,
What part of me screamed agent of chaos to you exactly?
she gives me a quick once-over, her previous smirk quickly turning into a frown.
Pickings are slim nowadays. You take what you can get. As should be evident by now.
As per Darren. She tilts her head in Darren's direction.
Wait a sec. I don't have anything against Millie at all.
In fact, in another timeline, I took over the writing club.
Excuse me? You flake even more than I do, which is quite the accomplishment.
Oof.
That's something else entirely. You've got the wrong idea.
Her frown sinks even deeper. This woman is entirely beyond comprehension. Last time we spoke one-on-one, she was talking about how she's been trying to keep the writing club afloat. What gives?
Then all you're doing is interrupting my alone time. Out. Both of you.
Her alone time that she forcibly dragged another person into. Darren doesn't need any more encouragement as he strides past me and out the door. I'm not so eager, watching as Heather returns to her seat and resumes her film. Another word from her. No snark, not even an acknowledgement of my presence. I return the gesture in full, quietly making my exit. Darren's still waiting outside, much to my surprise. I expected him to be halfway home by now, with how fast he booked it out the door.
What's up?
I just wanted to apologize for how this entire thing went down, I guess. I know you have personal stakes in this now, too.
Guess it's hard to deny that, given the last few minutes. Even if the initial shock of him being here was a downer, it's at least a relief to see that my gut reaction was wrong.
You and Heather painted a pretty complete picture of what happened. I don't blame you.
Emphasis on you.
I'm so glad to hear that. You wouldn't believe.
I might have cried if you did. He's noticeably more at ease now. As his posture relaxes, his head begins to sink, a curious expression on his face.
If she showed up on campus just to spite Millie, how did she plan to do that? If you didn't show up, I doubt anyone would have ever even found out.
That's... Huh.
I faced the door, not sure what I'm expecting to get from it. Was she planning something after the fact? Was it all a lie? If it was, then why is she actually here?
Well, whatever her plan was, it's not happening now.
Guess not.
Both of us continue to stand there, not quite sure where to go from here.
I'm gonna get going. Tell Millie sorry for me too, if you don't mind. I'll try to be better about showing up from now on. I promise.
Yeah, gotcha. I'm sure she'll understand. See you around.
Just what is Heather cooking? The small wave, she's gone. I should probably start making my way back to the writing room soon, too. As I start my short journey back, I can't help but wonder how Heather would feel learning of Darren's commitment to showing up more as a result of all this. Maybe it's a win. I don't know. I really don't know what she's cooking, but I'm unfathomably curious. A few days later. In the library. Despite how I started last semester, I was actually looking forward to classes starting up again. Any sort of return to normalcy after how the holidays went would be welcome. And then the process of getting my textbooks started. The library is filled to the brim with students looking around piles of books larger than themselves. I was hoping to get ahead of the curve, but it looks like literally every single other student had the same idea. I heave a heavy sigh. My collection of books is modest compared to last semester's extra workload. But that isn't going to get me out of here any faster. Some students have come to the same grim realization, choosing instead to simply take a seat and wait out the crowd. Thinking that may not be such a terrible idea myself, I start scouring for an available seat. Unfortunately, the tables are just as crowded as the rest of the library. Eventually found a chair to call my own, with a couple of students having a conversation between themselves at the otherwise empty table. Ooh, what an unusual couple of students they are. Hello, Haley.
Hey, Haley.
Managed to catch her attention despite her best efforts of the hustle and bustle of the library in the background. She leans against the back of her chair, flagging me over.
Feel free to take a seat. We're probably going to be here a while.
Understandable. Needing no further prompting, I accept her invitation, placing my small stack of books on the table in front of me as I do so. Finally properly settled in, my attention turns to Haley's conversation partner.
Wallace.
Right. Sorry, it's been a while.
Yeah, understandable.
Don't worry. I get you.
Good talk.
You could have worse timing. We were actually just talking about the writing club.
Oh no.
Oh?
Millie's a friend of mine, so I try to keep an ear on the ground when I can.
That is true. Billy did call Wallace when she was looking for Caprice.
Which means I know everything about you, obviously.
Oh no. If I doubted he and Billy had history, I definitely don't now. They're both so good at effortlessly being terrifying when they want to be.
Relax. It's all positive. Mostly.
Oh no.
Though there's bound to be some bias there from Millie's point of view.
Getting my face further into my scarf. Oh god.
Anyway.
I'm going to
about the
disappear.
club?
I'm going to melt into a puddle and vanish.
Dead in the water, despite my best efforts.
Heather? Interruption that simultaneously puts the three of us on edge as soon as we place the voice. As if on cue, Heather makes her grand entrance, plopping herself down in the other empty chair beside me, tossing her books haphazardly on the table.
That seat's taken.
Oof.
Oh, really? By whom?
Wallace is not a fan, I see.
By literally anyone else.
Neither is Haley.
Ooh, vicious.
Heather brings a hand up, curling it into a claw, before giving a small swipe, all accented by the smirk that's permanently stuck to her face.
I'm like Apple here, just an ordinary member of the writing club. If you're talking about the state of the thing, I think I'm entitled to listen in.
Oh no, Apple.
Feel free to listen in. A few tables over. Without the commentary.
You wound me, Wally.
She's managed to put the entire table on lockdown in a matter of seconds. If nothing else, she seems to have a genuine talent for that.
I'm not really in the mood to listen to you brag about how much you screwed the club over.
I did no such thing. My target was exclusively Millie.
What the? Actually, no. I don't care.
Heather's been keeping the club from closing down behind the scenes.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
Negotiating with the people who manage the budget and stuff.
Unless she outright lied to us. A couple of surprised expressions and one scowl at the table. I'm tired of the esoterics, and Heather's lost any kind of goodwill from me a while ago.
Didn't think you had it in you to snitch.
Oh.
Yeah, well, you're constantly finding new ways to surprise me too.
Ooh.
If that's the case, then what the hell is the point of all this? What's your game?
It's a weird mixed game of keeping the club going just to torment Millie almost. Is that your game? Heather responds with a scoff, one of the three expressions she's able to pull off. I wouldn't be surprised if she ended it there, and for a while it seems like she's going to do just that, but eventually she finds her words.
I told you exactly why. Millie's the problem, not the club itself.
Are you like trying to keep the club going but make it miserable enough so that Millie bails on it?
Without her, there is no club.
Managed just fine without her before, I seem to recall.
I catch myself clenching my fist. How could this woman look so nonchalant when she's sharing a table with three people who can't stand her? Guess this is just the kind of element where she thrives. Professional mean girl.
So what? You're keeping it around as long as possible and tearing down Millie all the while? That's torture.
Somehow manages to get under Heather's skin when nothing else can. She straightens herself, no longer leaning lazily on the table.
Don't assume things, Brad. I genuinely, sincerely loved that place. I may have only been there for a semester before Millie took over, but it was the best time I had in this hellhole.
Alright. She lost herself for a moment, but she manages to regain her typical composure. For what felt like just inches away from the peak, she deflates back down, resting her head on the back of her hand. Do you blame Millie for the club failing?
All she's good at is shoving people away. I'm just trying to return the favor.
Yes, you do.
For the love of... Heather, we've had this discussion. What do I have to say to convince you it was all just a matter of unfortunate timing? The popular members left, so people followed suit. The only reason I left was because of Eileen and Allison.
Oh.
I wonder...
Eileen and Allison leaving to join Caprice. Go into arts instead of writing. So... More club lore. Seems to give it genuine thought for a moment. Given that this supposedly isn't a new occurrence, though, I'm not sure how much stock I should put in that.
Who knows? Maybe you could have convinced me if it was an isolated incident.
Isolated?
Excuse me?
Ooh.
I remember the overachiever from before she was playing leader. The only time she'd ever skip out on a meet was when her roomie needed something. Pretty much inseparable, as far as I remember.
Hey!
And then I take my little break, and after I return, I'm met with an empty room and a rival club whose leader can't stand Millie. Weird coincidence.
You don't have the right to talk about that. Like, at all.
Even Haley's deadpan nature is starting to crack. And if you're openly pissing off Haley, you have fucked up. I'm not sure how much more I can take this either. For her to be so wrong on every single front, but unable to come to terms with it.
Seriously. Why do you even care about the actual club? If you're upset about your friends leaving, go get their phone numbers or whatever.
Interesting advice. Have you tried passing it on to your girlfriend, too?
I feel a shout rising in my throat, but I manage to restrain it once I remember where we are, instead settling for a harsh whisper.
Millie wants the club to succeed because she actually cares about the writing side of things, not because it's where her old buddies chose to crash. Whatever twisted common ground you think you two have, you don't. If the club eventually goes under, Millie will still have people who care about her.
What will you have? Where will you go?
You could have said the same if you chose to try and reach out to your friends instead of dedicating your life to spiting her for half a year.
The four of us go silent, allowing ourselves to drown in the chatter of the crowded library. I kept waiting for anyone else to kick up another argument, but the only noise that comes from any of us are Heather's fingers tapping lightly against one of her text covers. Eventually, our unwelcome guest finally picks herself up, throwing her books under her arm.
Well, I'm tired of sitting around. See at least one of you losers later.
So none of that stuck, huh? Well, whatever. Three of us are eager to see her go, watching in unison as she disappears from sight before properly breathing a sigh of relief.
I can't stand her.
That's the common sentiment. What a fascinating person.
No kidding.
I pinch the bridge of my nose as I glance over at the seat she had only recently been occupying, the only thing on my mind being the hope that I haven't made things harder for Millie. She's committed to the hatred. Committed to it. Power move. A few days later. I suppose now it's going to be interesting to see what Heather has to say about this. The final meeting of the writing club is an unsurprisingly solemn affair. Energy Millie had on display at our first meeting is all but spent. The others don't have much to say on the matter. One thing that struck me, though, is that it's a full house. Relatively, anyways. Everyone managed to make it somehow. Something I haven't seen in who knows how long. Much writing talk happens. It'd be unusual if that wasn't the case, I suppose. It's a quick get-together, mostly, from a formal announcement of the closure. Just as quick as it began, it ends. Three make their exit, Tanya and Darren sharing their condolences and goodbyes. The entire meeting adopts the feeling of a funeral, more so than an extracurricular activity. Millie and I stand together, hovering around the door for a while, Millie idly playing with the room's keys.
Well, we should start packing things up.
We can stick around a while longer if you'd like.
There's no mention of Heather leaving.
No, best not to dwell.
Oh, how wild would it be if, we just left while pretending that Heather wasn't in the room? Please dwell if it'll make you feel better. Dwell as long as you need to. Be your sweetheart, Olive. My silent hopes go unanswered as she makes her way to the desk and begins filing her notes away. I follow suit, stuffing my books and folders into my bag. Absorbed in organizing our stuff, we're both given quite a jump as the old door creaks open again. I turn around and am met with the one thing I absolutely did not want to see.
Still at it,
The last thing Millie needs right now is an extra heaping of salt in the wound.
Get lost.
Relax. I won't be around long, I assure you.
Did you leave something behind?
In a manner of speaking, I suppose.
She wastes no time sauntering her way to the front desk opposite to Millie. She rests her palms on its surface, leaning in straight into Millie's eyes.
I tried so hard to get rid of you.
Wow! Alright, you're gonna be open about it now. You're gonna be open about it now. Alright. You were keeping the club going, but just trying to get Millie out.
Hey,
You were nice enough, if a bit starry-eyed at the start. As another cog in the machine, you were harmless. But then I duck out. Not for long, just half a year to change my career path and take a break from it all. Not a big deal. At least when I got back, I'd have a home to return to.
You really held on to this for this long.
Heather.
And when I finally returned, all the people who made this tolerable were gone. In their place was the new queen, sitting atop her throne in her empty castle.
After semesters of feigning patience and taking all of Heather's vileness on the chin, Millie's facade finally starts to crack.
People transferred out and followed their friends. What did you want me to do?
It's a big moment, or at least a cathartic one, but Heather won't allow herself to be vanquished by something so authentic and sincere. She still wears that smug little smile like everything is always going her way, even as the club she fought so hard to preserve dies.
Leave.
Would you just stop?
No matter how much I try to ramp up the sternness of my tone, it's as if I don't exist in her world right now. I desperately want to drag her from that desk, and it's becoming harder to resist the urge.
If you were out of the picture, I could pry the club from your hands and try to salvage it. It felt like the only thing I could do for the people who left me behind.
Deal with the people who left you behind, then.
That's what I...
Yep, and you failed. You tried so hard to. But the deck was stacked against you. And I can say that as one of the cards. But you still failed.
Even from across the room, I can see the tears starting to form in Millie's eyes as Heather confronts her with the state of things. It serves as my breaking point as I start making my way up to the front.
I'm sorry.
Nope, I'm not done. The club is gone. And the second you lock those doors, all the memories and friends made here will be null and void. It will have amounted to nothing.
And you chose to try and take it out on Millie instead of actually trying to help.
This place that we fought over, stressed about, made each other miserable for. It's gone. I should be angry. I should be cursing your name up and down the halls by now. Do you understand me? It would be the right thing to do. Because it's what you deserve for screwing up everything.
Alright, I've heard enough.
That's funny, because I don't think I was talking to you.
And I don't remember asking you.
Olive, it's fine.
I expected to get interrupted, but not by Millie. Shock is enough to stop me in my tracks immediately.
Heather.
I wasn't
Olive and I are dating. Do you think we don't talk?
Oh.
All of this. Everything. You keeping the club going despite everything, trying to drag people away from it all the while, all that talk about the old guard that you know isn't true. None of it makes sense. Everything you say, everything you do, contradicts itself.
Okay. We're gonna unpack this now.
But I get it.
Heather and I share a dumbstruck expression, though I imagine it's for different reasons.
You're grieving. You've been grieving. world doesn't make sense, and it feels impossible to try and fix that. It's so easy to lash out. It's even easier to make up a villain in your head and focus all that frustration on them.
Wow.
Even if it's someone you care about. The person you want to lean on more than anyone else, but just can't.
I promise you, you're entirely off base there.
Trust me, I'm aware.
Huff from Heather in response to Millie's snark. Part of me wants to laugh, but the desire to let Millie continue outweighs that. She's talking to herself as much as Heather at this point, and I can only hope she's listening. Oh, this is...
My point being, I guess, is that, well, I'm not a very interesting antagonist, and you're a pretty boring villain. The club both of us were stressing out about for so long is gone. It stings right now, but I'm gonna try my hardest to put it behind me the second I walk out that door. For better or worse, this dynamic we have, it's just not worth it anymore. There's no end goal to it.
I'm tired of being the villain in your spite story, Heather. A short sigh, followed by a long pause. Millie's let it go. Millie has let it go. It's time for Heather to do the same.
I'm choosing to just take this weight off my shoulders and just try to remember what fond memories I made here. I'm not going to tell you to do the same, but I highly recommend it.
Millie's being the bigger person here. Heather maintains her position for what feels like minutes, managing to not once break eye contact with Millie. Eventually, though, she cracks as her elbows start to bend.
I am not gonna apologize for how I treated either of you. I don't care.
Of course.
But if you wanted to reach out later, I'll lend you an ear.
Millie smiles one of her bright smiles. For what feels like so long, it comes as a relief to me. See it again.
I appreciate that, Heather. If it's all the same, though, I'd prefer to never see you again.
That was... Damn! Hold! Despite the words, her tone is free from any malice or sarcasm, instead presented as a warm farewell. Heather, shockingly, matches it.
That works for me. See you around then, Millie. It's been fun.
Okay, so it wasn't a cold, damning indictment. It's more of a matching Heather's spiteful energy, and maybe Heather can respect that. Fair enough.
Agree to disagree.
All right. With a smile, or a smirk, it's hard to tell. Heather finally lifts herself off the desk toward the door, but not before turning my way one last time.
I think I finally see what you like about her.
Could have gone worse. Befriend? Question mark? Heather.
Glad to hear it. See you never.
I don't like Heather. I don't think I will ever like Heather. But ultimately, I don't think she cares if she's liked or not. I don't think she cares about being hated either. Many things she was a victim of circumstance. There was something she loved, and for reasons outside of her or anyone else's control, it was taken away. She fought, and it all it amounted to was lashing out. She blamed the person at the top when she came back for killing the club. She actively tried to save the club and get Millie out of power, which is contradictory actions, but she loved the club and wrongly blamed Millie for killing the club. Contradictory actions. So in a way, that resolution came about in a rather shocking manner, but yeah. What she wanted was for things to go back to normal, for her friends to come back, and for the riding club to be the happy family it once was, but it can't. It never can. So life goes on. For us, and with any luck, for Heather too. That was... wow. Yeah. That was quite something. Power move of a spite-filled farewell. And let's end this off with the endgame summation of this.
It was for the best for everyone involved. I wouldn't call it a wound at all.
Everyone involved.
Well, that's what you really feel.
I do. Honestly, the conversation with Heather made the decision worth it. Both of us finally said a lot of things we should have said a long time ago.
Really, yeah.
Maybe she can finally devote energy to being happy. I hope she can.
Start a film club, Heather. You've got the passion for it. You might actually enjoy it. You might actually... Hell, Heather would enjoy a film club more. She might find it easy to find like-minded people to come together and bond, and they can be happy.
Yeah, I hope so too.
There you go, Heather.
Hey, sorry if this is weird or forward to say,
But
I'm really happy to see things working out for you again. You deserve it.
Oh. Words hit home for her, pursing her lips tightly to steady herself as she silently
I
nods.
think she would have liked you.
And again, we leave off here. I'm just admiring in the gallery here. This CG is literally called Antagonist. It is... Heather really is a generational hater, isn't she? It seems like, ultimately, there is a path that exists where Heather can actually be happy and find her own family again, but it wasn't here. In her war against Millie to try and take control of the club. When realistically, like, her contradictory war to take control of the club was ultimately just a, really was out of mourning. The more I think about it, the more Millie's words that came out at the end were really quite accurate. He was mourning the group of friends that she actually had here. And that was... honestly kind of sad. Millie learned to let go first, and ultimately in their final scene, they learned to let go as well. So now, that covers out our friendship selection here. We've seen all of our writing club friendship scenes, got all of our achievements there. So, we will, next you see here, our introductory CGs here. Next we'll see here, we'll be picking up with our lovely art club head, Caprice. See how the story develops from her perspective. And we'll see, hopefully, how Millie's story develops when she's not the club of focus here. Because without Olive's support, what is going to happen to our girl? What is going to happen to Millie? I'm concerned to see, but it's also curious to see how this story develops from Caprice's point of view. We have a general idea of how Caprice is approaching all of this from her perspective, and some hints enough of what, from Caprice's perspective, might be troubling her, but we'll see what happens when we get around to there. And we'll see if things might play out differently too. This being more focused on Caprice. Ultimately, these stories are always going to intertwine because these two, they are family, all in all. And there's no, whatever happens, they will come back however rough it gets, they will come back. They will be family in the end. So, we will sign off here. I hope you enjoyed this little extra take into Millie's path. And it's time for us to designate Caprice hours. Officially name us some save blocks for Caprice. Very good. And we will see you back on Twitch next Tuesday for Twofold Tuesday. This has been a bonus video. Thank you for watching. Until next time. Until then.